What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron, and in this video I want to show you 10 more lighting options for WLED. I've done 2 videos like this recently for you guys, and you seem to enjoy it, so let's do it again, starting with this ultra thin LED strip. The advantage of such a thin LED strip is, of course, that it can fit in some unique locations where larger strips wouldn't fit. They've managed to accomplish this narrow width of 2.7 millimeters in a very interesting way, which I'll show later. Comparing this to a regular WS2812B LED strip, you'll see that it's actually narrower, but a little bit thicker, and I'll explain why this is in a second. If you notice on the front, there's only one copper pad between each LED. You might think this is weird too, but it's actually pretty smart. If you look closely at the end of the strip, you'll see that the data line runs along the top, but the 5-volt and ground channels run along the bottom of the strip. To achieve this, they had to make the strip thicker so they could stack them. Anyway, when you plug them in, you can see that they're quite bright for such small LEDs, and they're individually addressable so that you get some really nice gradients with different effects. The strip has WS2812B ICs or integrated controllers, but the 160 LEDs per meter are smaller and only use 6 watts per meter, where a WS2812B with 50/50 SMD LEDs uses about 18 watts per meter at 60 LEDs per meter. Just an FYI guys, I've left links to all the products we're covering in this video in the description. This next one is pretty familiar if you've watched my channel for any length of time, but I still think it's worth showing for those of you who are new or haven't seen my videos where I've showed these. These 16x16 WS2812B matrices are really a fun product to use with WLED, especially since they've added support for them in WLED in the last year or so. The matrix is composed of 256 50/50 SMD LEDs connected in a serpentine configuration. Each LED is individually controllable, and they're all mounted on flexible plastic. On the back, you can see data input, data output, and power injection wires. When you plug them into a WLED controller, you can see that they can be pretty bright, and WLED has some pretty cool preset effects for these matrices. I've done pixel art projects with these matrices in the past, and I've actually hooked 4 of them together to make some huge pixel art, so I'll leave links to those videos in the description if you want to check them out. I highly recommend you watch them because I show a lot of the capabilities of these matrices that I can't go into that same detail in this video. In the future, I plan to put 10 of these matrices together and make giant pixel art on my wall, so definitely subscribe if you want to see that one. The next one is also pretty familiar if you've been watching my channel, and it's a pixel matrix, but it's an 8x32 matrix. It works just the same as a 16x16, but of course it has a different aspect ratio. WLED allows you to specify the size of your matrix, so you can do that easily and use all the same effects that WLED has for matrices. I've used these in the past for making that display that you see behind me, and I made a whole video about that, so again, I'll leave a link to that in the description. Check it out if you want to see all the capabilities. Okay, so now we have a new style matrix, at least one that I haven't seen before, and it's another square pixel matrix, but this one uses smaller LEDs, so rather than 16x16, it's 22x22. You can see how small each LED is, yet they're still pretty bright, as you'll see in a second. On the back, you can see that it has the same set of wires that the previous 2 did, which makes it pretty easy to connect to an LED controller of your choice. Setting it next to a 16x16 matrix, you can see that both have the same dimensions, which means that I should be able to do a pixel art enclosure like I did with the 16x16 matrix, but it'll be a different grid size. Hit the like button and leave a comment if you want to see this smaller resolution pixel art with the 22x22 matrix. When we plug it in, you can see just how amazing this higher resolution makes this matrix effect in WLED look. Yeah, I pretty much sat here for 5 or 10 minutes just being mesmerized by this matrix. The next one is the same concept. It's similar to the 8x32 matrix, but it's smaller LEDs and it's an 11x44 matrix. Again, same smaller LEDs with the same connections on the back. Here I'm showing it compared to the 8x32 so you can see that they have the same dimensions. Again, this means that we could probably build one of those displays that I made, but with higher resolution. When we plug it in, you can see the effect of the higher resolution, which is amazing, and I particularly love this 11x44 matrix because of that beautiful resolution and this visualizer effect in WLED, which I think is awesome. I really like the sound reactive effects, but there's so many different effects to choose from that it's hard to decide. Super cool that we now have these higher res matrices, and hopefully we'll see even larger ones in the future. So this next one is kind of weird, and I'm actually not really sure what they're for. There are these little LED bars where each bar has 3 LEDs, and the LEDs are covered by a diffuser. They're apparently waterproof, and the description says that they're storefront lights. And I can see how you could use these to make a digital clock of sorts, which might be a fun project to try with WLED. The bars can be split off from each other, and they have adhesive on the back, so you can stick them in whatever configuration you want. Now, these are WS2811 ICs, so when you plug them in, you can see that each bar is individually controlled, but not each LED. Also, the diffusers work okay, but you can still see the individual LEDs. Maybe from a distance they'll look like bars, but it's really hard to tell. One thing you could do with these is leave them how they came, all connected together, and use them as a sound reactive visualizer. Of course, to do this, you'll need a controller that has a microphone and runs the sound reactive fork of WLED, so I'll leave a link to the one that I'm using here. This next one is also pretty unique. If you saw my last video, you saw the cylindrical shaped panel mount LEDs, and these are pretty similar. These have a small PCB with 3 LEDs on it inside a waterproof enclosure. They're 12 volt WS2811 LEDs, meaning each LED is not controlled individually, but all LEDs on the PCB are controlled as one. Each one has 2 connectors, so they can be connected to multiple strings, and one even has power injection wires, so you can inject power down the line if you want. I call them panel mount because the enclosure for each has a threaded base, and they come with a bag of nuts to screw onto the bases. This means you could drill a hole in a panel or whatever else you want, pop the wires and base into the hole, and then screw the nut on from the back. When connecting these to my trusty Atom controller, I found that the voltage and ground wires were swapped on the LEDs, so I had to switch them at the controller. But once powered up, everything was fine. Each pixel having 3 LEDs makes these things super bright, and obviously they would work great outdoors. The connectors obviously would need to be shielded from the weather, but the pixels themselves seem pretty well protected, having some sort of waterproof coating inside. Anyway, let me know if you guys have any ideas for how I could use these. Also, if you guys want a place to share your WLED ideas, make sure you join my Discord, I'll leave a link in the description, and share your projects there. We have a community of several hundred, which I'm sure would love to see what you come up with. Next, we have these ultra-thin COB LEDs. You saw the COB LED strip I showed in my first video, and this one is similar, but the strip is super thin, and the silicone diffusing material has a rippled look to it. While the first super thin strip we looked at has the data line on top and the other 2 on the bottom, this strip has all 3 channels on the bottom. This makes the strip a little wider than the other thin strip, but still a lot thinner than a standard WS2812B strip. The other thing to note with these is that the diffuser material is split where the 2 strips are joined together, so that looks a little bit weird. Anyway, there's about 320 LEDs on this short strip, and when you plug them in, you can see how bright they are. Since they're a COB strip, you can see that the effects blend really well with that diffusion, and overall they look pretty good. I'd probably use these as backlighting on a mirror or somewhere where you have only a thin channel to put the strip. Okay, so this next one is a bit conventional and one I've never seen used with LEDs. I happened to stumble upon this product on Amazon and I immediately got some ideas for my WLED setup. This is called speaker wire tape, and it's pretty much a roll of tape with 2 copper strips running inside it. The copper strips are 16 AWG, so they have an allowable current rating of about 13 amps according to the American wire gauge standard, but they would be great for passing power or data for an LED strip setup. They also have a 4-conductor version, but you could cut the strip down so that it only has 3. The beauty of this product is that it's paintable, so you can blend it in and barely see it on your wall. It also comes with clamp-on connectors to put at the ends, and the connectors have screw terminals so you can connect the power wires to each side. I'm sure you could also solder wires directly to the copper if you wanted. Here I have a little setup where I'm powering this WLED controller using this tape. One thing I caution you though is not to send mains power 120 or 240 volts through these, as they are definitely not meant for that. Stick with low voltage and low current. Definitely use the current limiter in WLED to limit that current. Typically 16 AWG wire can take 13 amps, so I'd probably set your limiter to 12 amps just to make sure. These triangular LED panels are similar to the hex LED panels that I showed in my previous video. In fact, they look like they're made by the same people. I think I like these ones though a bit better than the hex panels. It comes with 10 triangular panels and 10 sticky pads to adhere them to a surface of your choice. They come with a controller, but we're going to toss that and go with WLED of course. They also come with a bunch of these connectors to allow you to connect the panels to each other, and I'll show you how that works. Each panel has 6 different USB ports, and the USB ports actually transmit the power and data. You pop in the connector, being careful of the direction of data, and then snap on the next one. You can continue on connecting them in a chain. This controller now will just cut off the cable that goes to the first LED panel, and we'll notice that it's a 3-wire cable, just like we'd expect for WS2812 be LEDs. If we pop open the controller, we can see that the red wire is 5 volts, the black is data, and the white is ground. So we can just connect the cable we just cut off in that same way to our WLED controller. Let's connect the power and add the rest of the panels. As you can see, these panels look pretty good, but once again, we're not able to set a gradient across the panel, but each panel has a single color. This means that each panel is controlled like a single LED in WLED. I really do like the look of these, like I said, a lot better than the hex panels, and these will be definitely going on my wall somewhere. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. So this is part 3 of this series, and I had a ton of fun making this one, so be sure to check out parts 1 and 2. If you want to see this series continue, hit the like button and let me know in the comments, and I'll see about making a part 4. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining, and don't forget I've left links to all these products in the description, and if you use those links, I get a little bit of a commission, which helps support the channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you love WLED. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.